you will not get safer by giving up your liberty. Let's go back to the callers. John in New York. Go ahead, John.
Hey, a long-time listener. Shout out to Alex and all you guys. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Let's talk Rand Paul. I want to give you a cold, hard dose of reality here and talk strictly facts. Rand Paul won the most straw polls of any candidate running in this race with 12. That's including the largest straw poll this year. Rand Paul is the only candidate running in the race that beat Hillary Clinton in the same 5 states that Obama won twice. None of the other candidates have. Rand Paul has the biggest ground game in Iowa with 130 chairs and co-chairs and over 1,000 precinct captains in all 99 counties. That's the most of any candidate in this race. He's got 10,000 students coming out for him, and he has a bigger ground game in Iowa than Ron Paul did. And Ron wound up with 22 or 28 delegates from Iowa. All of these fake CFR/CIA-controlled mainstream media polls of 280-year-old grandmothers on landlines just ain't cutting it.
Yeah.
That's not any sort of representation of the entire GOP populace. You could toss every poll they mention on the mainstream media in the garbage. When actual registered voters stepped into a room to vote in real deal straw polls, Rand Paul won 12 straw polls. Donald Trump won 0. Rand Paul's the real front runner in this race. Not Donald Trump, not Ted Cruz, not Marco Rubio. Rand Paul has more supporters than Christie, Kasich, Rubio, Fiorina, and Bush combined.
I agree with you. I think that it's absolutely true that they can use these polls and do use these polls. They use push polls. Everybody knows perhaps about push polls. Well, they'll come out and they'll ask a question maybe the day before the election, and they'll throw a hint out of some unsubstantiated charge accusing somebody of something, trying to push you in the opposite direction. And, of course, as you mentioned, picking who they're going to poll is one aspect of that. But let's look specifically at how they are rigging this particular game, okay? They say the Des Moines Register Bloomberg Politics poll, this is Politico, that was released this morning, showed Paul at 5%, alone in 5th place. In fact, if the Des Moines Register poll was included in the list of the 5 most recent polls, says Politico, it gets Paul into a tie for 5th place with Jeb Bush at 4.2%. But, of course, they want Jeb Bush on the stage. They don't want Rand Paul on the stage. And so they say, look, this poll was released 36 hours after Fox gave the deadline for inclusion, but the poll was conducted between January the 7th and January the 10th, which was the qualification time, okay? So it's kind of a gray area, but then they point this out. Quite simply, had the Register and Bloomberg released their poll, which was completed Sunday, on Monday at 5:59 p.m. instead of on Wednesday at 6 a.m., Paul would have qualified for the main stage. Do you smell a skunk in that, John? I do.
Well, I mean, Bush has no supporters.
Yeah.
There's no way that Rand Paul could be polling anywhere near Jeb Bush. Rand Paul has millions of supporters swarming everywhere online, sending emails and calling Fox nonstop to try to get him on the debate or saying that they're going to boycott the debate. There's 3 candidates that have actual physical supporters in this race: Rand Paul, Donald Trump, and Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, I agree.
That's it.
Well, take a look. What do you think about Iowa in 2000 and the 2012 election cycle? You had this situation where we're supposed to believe that Rick Santorum won that after they changed the winner twice on that, okay? He was having the day before the caucus, he went into a bar and nobody paid any attention to him. As a matter of fact, they told him to shut up and sit down. They were watching something, they were watching a game on the televisions in the bar. And we're supposed to believe that this guy ran away with the Iowa caucus? I mean, they rigged election and caucus, not just the polls that they're rigging, of course. Okay, they rigged the elections, and we had numerous examples of that throughout the election last time, rigging it against Ron Paul.
I saw was every single kind of election fraud possible in literally every single state in Puerto Rico. Fraud in the primaries, fraud at the caucuses, fraud at the county, state, and national conventions. It had to be the most fraud in the entire history of U.S. elections.
Yeah, and
Rick Santorum had a good ground game in Iowa. He had 1,200 precinct captains, similar to what Rand Paul has now. So, you know, hopefully that's a good indication of who's going to win the popular vote. But we all know Ron Paul won Iowa.
Yeah, exactly.